Hi everybody, welcome to Reclaimed by Angel. I recently was able to obtain a couple of lots at an estate auction of books, and I wanted to explain to you how I go through them, because these were whole bookcases of books, and I wanted to explain how I go through them and what I decide to keep and what I decide to donate back to my local Salvation Army. So these are I'm going to show some books that I'm going to be donating and why. Some people might be surprised because they look a little older, but I'll explain it. So Plough of the Sea, it's a novel. It does have some age to it. If I can quickly find the date on it, it's 1961. But when I flip through it, there's no pictures. It's old paper. But there's no pictures. I do like the cover, the jacket of the book, but I have lots of old book paper pages, and so I don't feel like I need to keep this one. It's in pretty good shape, and so I'm going to donate this one back and see if someone else, can make use of it instead of me tearing it apart. So that's going to be one I donate. This one is the same kind of thing. It's an older book. But again, it's just book pages, and I have older book pages. So that's another one I'm going to be donating back. So here's another one. Hold on a second. My little dog is just behind. My big dog is just behind me trying to get me to play. Leo, lie down, bud. Okay, so here's a paper crafting book. It's not that old. It does have some cool pictures that would be good in a journal, in a junk journal. But this is in really good shape, and it's also a subject matter that I think people are still interested in. So instead of tearing this up, I'm going to donate it back, and hopefully someone can make some use out of it. We got another one. It's an old book. Sometimes these have really nice covers. They're embossed or debossed, and so I may look at keeping them. But when it's just a regular book like this, in pretty good shape still, I'm not going to tear it apart. And we've got stuff like this, The Living Planet. Again, there are some very cool pictures in here, but I don't know if cool enough for me to keep in my journal. Maybe, but again, really good condition book, and hopefully somebody else will make use of it. So I'm going to donate it. So here's another one. I do have many Christmas crafts books, a little bit more vintage than this one. I think this one was 1991, if I recall correctly, 1994. It has some, nice recipes, some nice crafts, bright, colorful pages. But again, this book is in very good condition. People would like the subject of Christmas, obviously. So I'm going to donate this one back. Here's something else that I sometimes keep. Make sure I'm in frame. So this is the Weight Watchers book, and I like the ones that are binders, because you can make junk journals, insert your pages. They don't have to be bound. It's a much easier process. And it's got dividers. It has the various pages. It's in pretty good shape. Some of it's not even opened yet. But again, Weight Watchers, smart food choices. This again is something that somebody might be able to use, and I'm always trying to make sure, unless I really like the book or like the subject matter, or it's got really outstanding illustrations, I always try and make sure that if someone else can use it as a real book, then I'm going to leave it for them like that. Leo's back there chewing on something. I'm sure he's not supposed to. So here's another one. It's a nature book. I like animals, but again, good quality, good condition. I'm going to leave it for someone that hopefully can use it for the subject matter. And then there's books like little books like this, little novels. I don't use these in my journals, so I'm going to get rid of those as well. Here's another one, a nature photography book. But again, some of the photos are really cool, but I have lots of bird books. I have lots of flower books, and so I'm going to try and keep this one intact for someone who can use it. So then some of the ones I do keep, I think they're going to be a little bit obvious, but so here's a bird one, a field guide to bird. I don't know if I'd call it a field guide. They called it a field guide, but that's kind of big to stick in your backpack or carry around. But these, I mean, the pictures are awesome. I love the paper. It's thick, it's matte, so it's going to be very easy to take paint or writing or coloring. It does have some age around it because it's yellowed, and then it is from 1975. So I really like this book. This is one I would keep. Even the cover is great. I checked the covers like that to make sure that if I wanted to, I could get the book and then just use the cover as a cover for a journal. So that's great. So this is one I would definitely keep and use the pages from. And so, like I said, this one's still in good shape. And if it wasn't a subject matter that I really liked, if the pictures weren't awesome, the paper wasn't awesome, I would donate it back. But it sort of checks all my boxes. I'm going to keep it. So here's one that's a little bit older. And again, you can tell it's 1965. It's got some great paper. It's thick. And the reason I kept this one is because it does have some really kind of cool illustrations in it. That's kind of cool. So I wanted to keep it. There's not a ton of illustrations, but there's enough that they look really cool. Flying squirrels. So I'm going to keep this one. I'll use the book pages as well as the illustrations. Look at that one. That one's really cool. I love elephants. I mean, I think a lot of people love elephants. So we're going to keep this one. Cover's kind of nice too, size. Again, I can gut it if I wanted to, so we're keeping that one. So here's one that I'm keeping, not because of necessarily the paper on the inside, because it's kind of like newsprint, but I really like this cover for a small journal. I mean, it's very cool, right? Pride and Prejudice. There's lots of people that love that. It's got a nice peacock on it. I couldn't find, oh, wait, can I find a year? Yep, 1961. But I don't know that anyone's going to pick this one up when they can have better condition copies of Pride and Prejudice. So I really like this for the cover, and I'm going to keep it. And you can see that I can gut it if I want to. There we go. Then you sometimes get things like, well, here, this one's kind of cool. Categorically speaking. And it is full of pictures of different cats. Now, I'm not a cat person. I'm a dog person. I love cats. Kittens are really fun. The only thing, you know, for me, why I prefer dogs over cats is because I love the interaction of dogs. And a lot of cats, at least in my experience, are very independent and kind of like, oh, well, I don't really, doesn't matter to me whether you're here or there, and, you know, pet me when I want you to pet me and that kind of thing. But anyway, so here's really cool pictures of cats. I'm going to keep this because I think people might like photos of the cats. The paper is semi-matte. It's not glossy for sure. And let's see, copyright 1981. So I'm okay with pulling this apart. It looks like there might have been a little bit of water damage on it, so some people might not pull it off the shelf to use it as a book for what it's intended. So I'm going to keep that one. Then you come across things that are kind of cool, like this. So this was in one of the lots I bought. It's missing, I think it's missing its cover. It doesn't look like it's but it's an old storybook, and it's 1967. It's called The Cookie Jar. The paper is thick, matte, and inside, very cool illustrations. And so certainly if I donate this back, no one is going to buy this because of the condition it's in, but the condition doesn't matter to me because I'm taking it for the paper and the pages and the illustrations. So I'm going to keep that. And I feel really good about when I come across stuff like this because I know it would be destined for the landfill or recycling, but I'm going to use it for a better purpose and give life to a really old book. So here's one, an old book that I'm going to keep. I'm not going to be donating it. And it's the reason for that is it's still in okay shape. It's not in great shape. It is kind of falling apart a bit. I don't think it would be successful in getting adopted if I donated it. And so I am going to keep this one, and I will use it for the book pages. Paper's a little bit thin, but it's a cool cover. I can certainly gut it, and it would make a nice size traveling journal. So it, you know, there's things books like this that I keep, books like this that I donate, but this one is fairly damaged. It's not a book that I know, so I am going to donate this one. Okay, so also when you buy these lots, you can find, you know, some kind of fun things. This one is Department of Mines for the Tisdale Township. And you can see it was, I guess, originally $2. I was curious when I picked this one up. I wasn't sure what it was. I waited until I got home. So when I opened it, there's a little folder. The original invoice for buying the book, July 30th, 1973. So that's cool. I would use this in junk journaling. I would either back it onto something a little more sturdy. You could also use it for a collage. But anyway, so I would use this. And then there's some really cool maps. Yeah, look at that. So cool colors. The paper is not quite tissuey, but cool. More maps. So there's quite a few maps in here. And they are a big size, some of them, so you can make big pages of them, which I always like. This whole package is different maps. Get that there. So you can see that it's all maps of the township that we're talking about. And then there's the book that actually covers the geology of the various areas and sections and what kind of rocks and stuff are in it. So this is really cool. See, tourmaline. Yeah. So I'm also interested in rock hunting. I'm a little bit of a novice rock hound to find crystals and stuff, and I tumble rocks, and sometimes I make jewelry out of some of the stuff I have. So this was kind of a cool find because I can look it over, and I'm sure Tisdale Township is not too far from me. But yeah, so this was a 1968 edition. Pretty cool. And then I could even make a junk journal out of the formation, like the foundation of this this book. It's great. So here's another one of those books that might otherwise get thrown out. It's 1945, Descriptive Geometry from the University of Toronto. And it just has some, you know, cool figures or illustrations. So I like using sometimes the math pages. It looks cool. This is a little glossier than I like to use, but it's not too bad. So again, this would be destined for the recycling bin because it is in pretty bad shape, but I'm gonna, you know, give it a new life. Then I was lucky enough to get 3 field guides. And for those of you that do junk journaling know that, you know, field guides are kind of a bread and butter for us. So they're all Audubon. One is the North American mammals, and 2 are North American birds, Eastern region. It looks like they're 2 different editions because the covers are a little different. And you guys know what field guides look like, so we've got all kinds of pictures. This one is cool for the animals. I really like it. And then the descriptions in the back, little maps. And then these ones are obviously the birds. So I really like field guides. One of the things on the shelf was this book, Toronto Flashbacks, and it's postcards, so they're not used postcards, but they got pictures of different scenes in Toronto, right? You can see that they got the description on the back. So this is cool. I love these. You can rip these out and use them for tags, journaling tags in your books. And it says, Mom from, I can't make it that name, I don't know. Christmas 1963. So yeah, these got some age to them too. So here's the example of another book that I would not normally keep, but man, this one is in really bad shape. It is totally falling apart. The cover's all scratched up. There's no illustrations or anything in this, really. It's just the type. But because it's so old, it is from 1952, and because it's in such bad shape where it would just get thrown out or recycled if I dropped it off, I'm going to keep it, and then I'm going to use it for the book pages. The paper is pretty good. It's not very thin, so that's good. And it does have the, I stopped on plague. It does have some aging around the outside, and so I feel like I'm rescuing it and giving it a second chance on life. by using it and tearing it apart for our junk journals. Sometimes you come across things like this book. So this one is called The Gathering Storm. It's by Winston Churchill. This one is not in great shape. You can see the text block is coming out. It's from 1948, but I am not going to tear this one apart. I'm going to do a little bit of research to see whether it's got any value to it. I can't find any other date on there besides the 1948, so either this is the first edition, or there was only the one edition. I don't really know. I don't know much of, I don't know anything about this book. So if it's especially if it's a first edition by Winston Churchill, I am not going to tear it apart. So I'm going to do a bit of research. So I'm not donating it, but neither is it getting torn apart. Not great shape. There is some water damage on it, but you never know. Someone might be interested in that for the book itself. So I'm going to hang on to it and see if I can find an owner. So then we've got these two gardening books. Again, gardening books are kind of like the field guides to us. You can cut them out. Paper's a little bit glossy, but again, if I cut this out and back it with some regular book page paper, you know, for instance, from this book, you put that back on the color. You've got a tag with the picture on the front, and then on the back you have paper that you can write or draw or paint on. So we're going to keep these. One's annuals, one's perennials. I think they're from the 70s. Time Life. Yep, 1972. So we're going to hang on to those. Then there was this cool thing. I have never seen a book like this. Abstract, I don't know what that says, and Floral Designs. Abstract, oh, just Abstract and Floral Designs. Those are these are design people, or strips. And then look at these. They are so cool, like totally cool. The paper's kind of matte. Yeah, it's matte, it's thick. So you can cut these out, use them as designs on your pages, on the covers. This is really cool. So, and huge. So in theory, I could take this and actually fold it in half to make a page that I'm going to sew into a journal. So this is really great. So here's another one, Paintings, Birds of the Eastern Forest. And it's got paintings of different bird life. Paper's a little glossy. I would normally not, I prefer not to use this glossy paper, but you can glue stuff to it, or you can rough it up with sandpaper. So really pretty, nice and detailed. Love that book. And again, they're big. You could fold them in half and without having to either connect two pages together to make a full page in a journal. So some of the books I keep for journaling, some of them I keep for myself. Again, I mentioned I'm a dog person. I have a 9-month-old Labradoodle, Leo, travels with me just about everywhere. And so when I saw this one on the shelf, I thought, yeah, I'm going to keep this one. So different dog breeds. The paper is matte. The photo papers are slightly glossy, but fun reading. Oh, look, he's so cute. Yeah, nice one, Catching a Duck, the retriever. So I'm going to hang on to this one. It is from 1975, but this is a good find. It's in good shape. This one will be going on my shelf. So then the last thing I'm going to show you is encyclopedias. Actually, I think I might show you one or two more. So encyclopedias, we come across them all the time. Obviously, this was when my kids ask me what these books were, I say, well, this was my internet. This was my Google. They're not worth a lot. I have several sets I've picked up, and some sets, yes, like if you get a specialized set, it's worth something, but a lot of them are not, and so they end up getting recycled. Like my Salvation Army won't even take encyclopedias. So when I find encyclopedias, you know, like on this estate auction, I got a whole bookshelf for $1. And so some of the shelves had encyclopedias. I go through them and I take out pictures. I'll take out some pages if I like the way the text looks, but I'll rip out the pictures if they're interesting to me. All right, so geology and mineralogy. I might take this one out to make a page in my journal about the fact that I like you know, rock hunting and stuff like that. So I will take them out and then I'll recycle the rest. So I feel like, you know, they would normally have just gotten dumped right into the recycle bin. At least this way, some of the pictures are getting used, some of the pages are getting used. These ones I might actually even keep the cover, because the covers are embossed, so it's really cool. They're not as easy to separate in a text block because there's not that much space there, but I can still figure it out. And then I can use these for journal covers. And the set wasn't complete, but I did get 5 or 6 of them. I actually got more than 5 or 6 of them, so I can tell you the story. At this auction, I overbought, as I want to do sometimes, and all the stuff wouldn't fit in my car. And so I happened to be talking to somebody as they were walking by, and he mentioned to me, you know, how much stuff I have, and I said, well, I don't even think it's going to fit in all my car. Are you interested in some books? And he said, no. We got to talking about, you know, where we each live, and what ended up happening was this very nice gentleman offered to bring home 5 or 6 bags and boxes of my stuff that I couldn't fit in my car, because he lives in the same city I do. So he dropped that off. Yes, I know some people might be thinking, wow, you gave him your stuff and you just met him. I'm a trusting person. I figured if you know, he ran away with my stuff, then it would be a lesson for me. I didn't give him, you know, it wasn't worth thousands of dollars, so that's fine. So anyways, he did drop off the stuff to me, asked me what I was going to be doing with the encyclopedias that I had bought, and you know, he said his grandkids would read them because he doesn't allow them on their phones when they're visiting him, so that they would actually read it. So I gave him all but I think 2 of the books. I said, sure, take them all. If someone's going to read them, I would rather you be reading them, making use of them, than me tearing them up. So anyway, so that was gone. So here's a really vintage gardening book. I think it was from the 70s, if I remember correctly. So this was another great find. 1970 right on. Paper is great, matte, except for the pictures, they're glossy. But there's some illustrations like that with the rose. Love it. Big pages again. I could cut it in half, not cut it in half, fold it in half to make a decent sized journal page. But really like it. And even the cover is kind of cool to make a journal out of. And then the last one is another one that, Leo, leave it. My dog is exploring all the stuff that I have sitting in my front hall waiting to, Leo. So, you know, I keep books to, I get books to donate, I get books to do journals out of, I get some books, you know, like the dog book for other interests. And so this one is an interest to me. I just picked up some watercolors that I want to start using in some of my journals. And lo and behold, I get a watercolor school practical guide to watercolor, painting with watercolors. So this is great. So, you know, send things out into the universe and they come back to you. So I'm going to keep this one for myself. Oh, look at that, man. That is cool. On how oh, look at the teapot. Cool. Okay, so this one is staying with me and going onto my shelf. So there you go. That's how I decide what to keep and not to keep. I have several more videos that are going to be coming out on hauls that I have either gotten from thrift stores or gotten at estate auctions. Some really cool stuff that I can use for both journaling, and some stuff is for resale either on eBay or Etsy, and some of it's china and glass, so yeah, a little bit of a mix of what I've picked up. Hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below and I will be sure to get to them. Thanks and take care.